Today I want to talk about due diligence in health and safety because it's one of those topics that generates a lot of unnecessary discussion and concern when in reality it's quite a straightforward concept. Due diligence in health and safety really came to prominence with the work health and safety legislation which has recently been adopted by a number of jurisdictions around Australia. That legislation creates positive obligations on company officers to exercise due diligence and ensure that the company is meeting its obligations. In the context of health and safety, this is really about providing a safe workplace. While the positive obligations for due diligence in the legislation create a new legal structure, the concepts and expectations of due diligence are not new. In my first book, Management Obligations for Health and Safety, I dedicated a chapter to the Canadian decision Bata Industries. That case looked at the prosecution of 3 different managers in one organisation for failing to exercise due diligence in the management of an environmental risk. The managers that the court found didn't exercise due diligence were criticised, and they were criticised because they didn't follow up on known environmental concerns, they didn't put interim measures in place to manage those environmental concerns, they didn't properly inform themselves about the nature and seriousness of the environmental problem, and they didn't conduct enough on-site inspections. Some specific observations by the court were that managers had an obligation, if they decided to delegate responsibility, to ensure that the delegate received the training necessary for the job, and they had to receive detailed reports from that delegate. Managers have responsibility not only to give instructions, but to ensure that those instructions are carried out. And managers have obligations to conduct sufficient site inspections on a regular basis. There's also an Australian decision, Universal Telecasters, which describes the obligations of due diligence as having a proper system to prevent contraventions and adequate supervision to ensure that the system is properly carried out. This obviously gives rise to 2 critical questions. First, what is a proper system? And second, what is adequate supervision? Proper systems are probably the easier part of the equation. For most health and safety risks encountered in most workplaces, there is more than enough information and guidance material available to develop a system and to manage those risks. Information is available in legislation, it's available from the regulator, it's available through guidance material, and it's available through codes of practice. One of the oddities of safety management, however, is that an extraordinary amount of focus goes into creating, or perhaps recreating or reinventing systems to manage risk. The creation of the system is usually completely out of all proportion to the amount of supervision that we actually end up applying to make sure that the systems work. Development, it seems, is far more important than implementation. Another byproduct of the obsession with the development of systems is the development of paperwork. And paperwork not only undermines systems and it can make workplaces less safe, it also creates legal liability. Remember, when it comes to paperwork, more is not always better. Most major accident inquiries in the last 30 years have criticised the complexity of documented safety management systems. As recently as September 2015, the Queensland coroner made the observation that our safety management processes can lead to a suite of documents. Now, those documents might pass audit requirements, but often they don't add value for the workers in the field. Workers often find the documents hard to comprehend and they're unhelpful for their day-to-day work. Here we see an example of the interaction between systems and supervision. Effective due diligence would mean that managers understand how well the system is understood before accidents happen. The fact that a safety management system is too complex for people to understand should not be revealed for the first time in a fatality inquiry. If an organisation has been exercising adequate due diligence, they should already know this. The more problematic aspect of due diligence is adequate supervision. The failure of supervision at a senior management and organisational level is often best characterised by the gap between what management ought to be interested in about health and safety and what they actually know. This gap has been identified time and again in major accident inquiries. Most recently, it was very well articulated in the Royal Commission into the Pike River coal mine tragedy, an underground coal mine explosion in New Zealand in which 29 men died. In the inquiry, the Royal Commission identified that the board received statistical information about injury rates, but they appeared to have received no information proving the effectiveness of crucial systems such as gas monitoring and ventilation. The health and safety industry is spectacularly good at producing information about health and safety. We produce data, graphs, trends, all manner of facts and figures which are loosely associated with safety. For example, the number of injuries, the percentage of training completed, the number of management inspections, the percentage of action items closed out, and we could go on and on. Importantly, however, this information tells us very little, if anything, about the effectiveness of our crucial systems. At best, we are left to assume that those numbers have some relationship to the effectiveness of safety management. It's very important to recognise that due diligence is not a number. It's someone standing in front of you telling you what you need to know. If you need to know that frontline workers know how to identify risk, if that's one of your crucial systems, then on a regular basis, someone ought to be telling you that they've gone into the workplace, they've spoken with the workers, they've looked at the system of identifying risk, they've had conversations, and based on all of that activity, they have a view about how well frontline workers can identify risk. That's due diligence. And of course, every now and again, you need to go out and ask the same questions. A chart that shows 100% compliance with the completion of paperwork is not the same. It's not due diligence. If you want to understand due diligence, ask yourself what you should be concerned about. What are the crucial health and safety systems in your organisation? Ask yourself what information you receive about health and safety. Is it a graph? Is it a chart? Is it a trend line showing decreasing personal injury rates? Whatever it is, ask yourself what that information tells you about the things that you are concerned about. What does it tell you about your crucial systems? Most likely it tells you nothing, and this should be of concern. Because if the information doesn't tell you anything about your crucial systems, if it doesn't prove that they are effective, how do you show due diligence? While the underpinning concepts of due diligence are not complex, organisations often struggle with implementing them. They struggle because of long-held beliefs and practices around safety management. These practices are often built on compliance-based systems and statistical information which can undermine safety and create an illusion that safety is being managed. If you would like any help understanding due diligence and how it can be implemented in your workplace, including any training, advice, systems development or coaching, please feel free to drop me a line or give me a call. You can find out more about me at my blog, mysafetythoughts.com, and you can find out more about Nexus Lawyers at our website. I'm based in Perth, Western Australia, but I'm happy to travel anywhere to support organisations improve safety management. Thanks for watching, and good luck on your safety journey.